Welcome back to the Maven Show. This is your host Rohit. Today we have Liz, the founder and CEO at Why Get Wasted and podcast host. Thank you, Liz, for getting into the show.
Hi. Yes, also to clarify, I'm the founder and CEO of Why Get Wasted, and I'm the podcast host, founder, and author at WTF Just Happened. What the fuck just happened? So just to
Awesome.
clarify, life of having two businesses, but we don't have a podcast yet for Why Get Wasted, but just thought I'd clarify.
Awesome. So you are obviously a serial entrepreneur and on like more than one company and being an author, podcast host, and so on. Awesome. So yeah. So just first quick thing, would you just like to give a quick intro about yourself, how you guys started with entrepreneurship, what was your first company all about, and how all these companies are running and what each of them is doing so far?
Great. So I always wanted to work for myself. I think I just always knew I would be an entrepreneur in some form, even though I didn't really necessarily have that word. But even as a kid, I very self-starter. I did well in school because I made myself, but I hated school. I really like to go like do things myself and always filled with ideas. So I used to work in the fashion industry, and in school I started a blog that covered emerging fashion weeks from around the world. And then while I was working in fashion as a stylist and assisting other stylists, I really wanted to move forward with this blog, and I turned it into a full startup that became an e-commerce, and it was called Runway Passport. And that was my very first startup, and it was so much fun. We sold emerging fashion designers in over 100 cities around the world. We had a global team of bloggers and photographers working whenever there were fashion weeks or fashion events. And it was just so much fun.
Got it. Cool. So you were the young entrepreneur starting from the school age, I guess, right?
Yes. Yes. Although at that point, I didn't necessarily think of it as entrepreneurship because I was also working as a stylist, but I'd say I just always had these ideas and was like, gotta do them, want to do them. So that is the story of how my first startup and how I got started.
So yeah, tell us something about your startups, which I haven't said the one, what the fuck just happened. So tell me and the audience about both of the things, like both of the brands, like what each of the operations of the both of the companies.
Okay, so my current companies, I can start, I guess, telling you about Why Get Wasted. And that is a company in eco-friendly zero waste space. And we consult with events, everything from fashion shows and fashion shoots to business meetings and conferences, and we help them lower their waste. And, ideally go zero waste, but any form of just lowering waste, we're really willing to work with the company because every bit helps. So that is Why Get Wasted. And then What the Fuck Just Happened? It is a book, podcast, and we do private dinners. And it is about science of spirituality. And I tend to be pretty skeptical, but after a loss in my family, I decided to investigate if there was any scientific evidence of spirituality or afterlife. And I found even scientists who'd worked with Stephen Hawking studying this type of research. So I started reading all about that and reading up to quintuple blinded studies on these topics and meeting the people behind the scenes at this world, and even looking into singularity and AI. What is the tipping point of consciousness in AI? And I just became very fascinated originally as a hobby. And then I guess being an entrepreneur, I just kept going further and decided I would turn just personal journaling into a blog, which I decided to turn into a book, which I added a podcast for, and then added a series of private dinners that people can purchase, and which would involve myself giving a talk on the science of spirituality and a spiritual experience, whether it would be a Reiki master, a psychic medium, we have a variety of options that we could offer. So those are the two businesses.
Cool. So just more and more ways to go in the business, more and more ways to get in the money. Got it.
Yes, get the money and share. I mean, the thing is, you're gonna have, it's more, I feel entrepreneurship is more than just getting in the money. Like, you're gonna have to work and bring in money.
Yeah.
So it's about doing what I absolutely love to do and what I want to bring to people and bring to the world. And that's why I add the entrepreneurship. Because if it was only about making money, then I would work on Wall Street or I'd work as a CEO of a big corporation. But of course, I want to make money. I'm not going to pretend I don't care about money, but it's choosing to make money, which I would have to do anyway, doing something I deeply care about and that I hope really resonates with other people and helps the world.
Yeah, that's real. Cool. Awesome. So you've been into entrepreneurship for long, and how you've been leading the teams, so you have multiple experiences in leading teams, different departments and so on. So how it actually looks like to lead a team and how to grow the team from 0 to 1, 1 to 10, then 10 plus,
I think it's about, for me, I really like to find people that are excited about working as well and excited about the idea. And that's how I find the team. And then I keep them inspired. I think I really like to let people work how they work best. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Have everyone start at this time, have them check in, at this exact hour, work ends at this time. I really like to talk to people about what they're most interested in and trust that they're going to do it at their time. Maybe they sleep till 2, but then they're the people that work till 4 in the morning. Maybe someone else wakes up at 6 a.m. and comes in, works till noon and then wants to spend like 4 hours with their kids and then work a couple hours in the evening. And I just care how people get it done. I think that's a big thing. It's definitely how I work best. And I don't want to micromanage or tell someone how to do it. So I feel do it on your own time, do what you're excited about. And obviously there's always things that maybe we all have to do we're not excited about. But I think if you're excited about the big vision of what you're doing and try to give people respect that they know how they work better than I know how they work, that to me is a really big deal about leading teams.
And leading teams is about inspiring people as well, like what people you have on the team, so they should get inspired from what you are doing.
Exactly. But I like to think if they're applying for the job, they care at least about the overall vision of the company. Like when I had Runway Passport, everyone who came on was really excited about fashion. They either wanted to start a fashion label, work as a fashion stylist. They were fashion photographers. I mean, I think with this type of company, all 3 of the ones, they're very unique. So you're getting people who would apply to work at these that genuinely care about these topics. So, and maybe somebody doesn't, they just want a job, and that's fine too. I mean, I still try to respect that they can do the job on their time and their terms. And I care about results. I'm not just going to be like, oh, you don't have to have results. But, I trust that I will say I want these results and people can figure out their way of doing it. And when they need vacation, when they want to wake up, when they want to go to the gym. And as of now, basically, most of my teams have been remote. When I had Runway Passport, a lot of the team would come in and we worked out of my apartment. It was just really fun. We were all close in age and we all were like pretty young and shortly out of school. And it was a good time.
I think getting together is obviously a good thing, and it's a fun for sure.
Yes, when you can. I think, there was obviously like with Runway Passport, we covered everything around the world. So people lived in all different countries. So that was before remote was the thing to do. So I really ran a remote team before that's what people were doing pre-2020. And as of now, like Why Get Wasted isn't a permanent team. It's teams that would be hired per job, but it's about zero waste. So I think people who go into zero waste really care about it and they're excited, and we care about the mission. And I think that's a big thing for having a team. Do people care about the vision? Do they care about the mission of the company? And then just you talk to people and figure out how they work best and respect that.
Awesome. Yes, it is. Cool. So tell me the best ways, like how should someone get motivated for their vision? How someone can we feel motivated for the vision, or external motivation is the thing which everyone should rely on, or internal motivation must be there?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, I would say what you're motivated about comes from within, and you're going to pick what you're motivated about. And then how do you stay motivated day to day? I mean, sometimes you're going to have a day where you're like, you know what? I'm exhausted. I'm working slow today. I'm not motivated today. And I think that's okay. You have to let yourself be nourished and take a day off when you feel that you're worn out as much as you can. Sometimes there's a deadline and you're like, I have no choice. But I think you find that internal motivation. I think everybody has something they really care about. And then, if you choose to do that for your business, then you care about this thing that's bigger than you. And you care about the reason you're doing it. I mean, I know it's the overused thing, like the Simon Sinek, but your big why, but I think it's true. Like, why are you doing this? Most people who do have an entrepreneurship vision, they genuinely care about the cause. And I think there's a huge motivation in that. And then for the day-to-day, it's very personal. It's like some people are motivated by different things, but for me, I enjoy what I'm doing day to day. I care about the companies. I like to do this stuff. I mean, there's stuff I don't want to do, of course, every single day. But I think when they go towards the big vision, it's pretty easy to be motivated. And if you're having a hard time being motivated, I mean, figure out what's going on there. It's one thing, maybe, if you're an employee somewhere and you're not motivated, it might not be the right job for you. If it's your company and you picked it and it's what you care about and you have no motivation, maybe
purpose, why you're doing what you are doing.
Right. Yeah, go back to your purpose. And if you're still not motivated, maybe there's something else going on that you need to figure out. Maybe entrepreneurship is not the right thing for you at that moment. Maybe go work for another company that does what you care about, or maybe you just need a week or 2 weeks off. I think there's a huge misconception. I don't really like the whole idea of hustle culture. I think it's overdone. I think people kind of use that concept to sell things. I mean, that whole idea, I don't like hustle culture. I don't think you get the best out of yourself or anyone. I think, as I said, it's working on your own rhythm. And maybe, I think for myself, at times it is like what people would call like hustle culture, but for 4 days. And then I want to take 2 days off. And sometimes I want to work steady. It's about listening to yourself, but that idea that you're just grinding, never stopping. Maybe somebody, I'm not going to tell someone else works, but I think that burnout could be a very real reason why you're not motivated. So those are just ideas of, if you're not feeling motivated, why and what you can do. Step away from it. Or maybe, I mean, I'm absolutely not a doctor, but maybe medically, maybe you need to do something medical if you're not having energy. But I can't even begin to go there. Go talk to your doctor or nutritionist. So
awesome. So tell me, so being as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs used to start their first company. They're excited, have some money, man. Let's go. Let's do this. 6 months and 1 year down, maybe 2 years down. How to know when to end and start a new company, because everything has a time. And I believe you said that in the previous conversation as well, like your first launch may be not a boom. Your first launch may be not a success, so how to know?
I would say more than maybe. I would say you can pretty much bet your first company is not going to be a success. There are exceptions. But that makes me want to redefine success a little bit, because I learned so much from that company that, to me, that's a success. I would not be able to do what I'm doing right now had I not started that company.
Yeah.
And I think when to quit. Sometimes you absolutely don't have a choice. You have literally run out of either your savings or your investment. And maybe you feel so motivated, you absolutely cannot step away from it. And then you can figure out if it's worth the cost of that. Maybe that means you get a day job and you put money in. Maybe it means you move in with your parents and live on their couch. And, it's such a personal thing. Some people might do that and then just still keep working. And the people they hired, they might take over the work, what they were doing themselves, and keep fighting. And I think if you still have that like energy and you've burned through all the money and you still just feel so motivated, still do it. I mean, maybe make tweaks, figure out what hasn't worked. Do you think it's just a matter of time? Or maybe it's going well and fairly steady and the motivation is completely gone. And maybe you want to step away. And in that case, maybe you hire people to run it and keep it a small business, because, why walk away from the money? And you don't bring yourself into it and you start another company. And sometimes you just, like with Runway Passport, I felt I was pushing and pushing and pushing, and it was so vibrant and so exciting for quite a few years. And then it hit a wall, and I saw the problems that were preventing it from getting to the next level. And I could have pivoted and maybe done some work, kept the company and done something related to that. I could have fought harder to raise more money and figure it out. I mean, it could have been figureoutable maybe, but I decided I didn't want to figure it out anymore. I was no longer motivated by this company, and it was time for a change. And it's very internal. If there was a formula, some people might tell you there's a formula. I don't think there is. I think it's very personal, and it's when do you no longer have the motivation? When would you no longer live in your parents' basement or take a day job and work till midnight when you get on your startup, when you get home, once you've run out of money? Yeah. I mean, once you just don't have energy for it, you don't.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship in the young age, like in early 20s, if you fail probably one time, it's fine. But after 30s, it's not, because you have responsibility of yourself, your family, you got a bunch of things to do, and you have age as well.
Depends how much money you have too. Let's be realistic. I mean, if you are failing and your wife is like a top CEO at a corporation and makes like $10 million a year, that's very different. And then stick with it if your wife is willing to invest, or your husband, or whatever. If your grandparents gave you like a $50 million trust fund, your life is very different than if you're living paycheck to paycheck and now you have a baby on the way, and and your husband or wife works a job that makes a comfortable living but not enough to support a family on their own. So it depends. I think it very much depends on what the trade-off and what everyone has a different reality. And I think most of us would like to have the $100 million reality of the wealthy spouse or inheritance, but not everyone does. So it's, I don't think a blanket statement could be made like that. It also depends where you live. Maybe your spouse has a remote job, or you have a part-time remote job and you make comfortable money and you can move somewhere that's a lot more affordable. And I think life's very flexible. And I think to me, a really big part of life is always making sure you do pursue what you're passionate about, no matter your age. Like, I imagine when I'm older, I mean, I'm hoping that these all make a lot of money so I can have the freedom once, I have kids and need to support a family. But I think life is very figure outable. And sometimes that's not the top priority anymore. But if it is, I think there's ways to figure it out, even if you are at the stage where you're starting to have children.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It is. It is. Awesome. Having money from the grandparents, or having like someone supporting or making $10 million per annum from salary, that's the quite different scenario, like obviously you can just rely and just build as long as possible then. But it's not a case for even just one person in the total economy.
it's not the typical case, no, but I guess, I mean, there's other ways. Like, I think for most of us, like, I mean, I don't have that kind of money. I wish I did one day, but I think that's where it gets figure outable. And when it's no longer worth it to be figure outable is maybe when it's time to move on. Again, it's like,
Yeah.
there's so many remote jobs you can do part-time
Yeah.
that if that's what you want to do and you want to move to somewhere really affordable.
I think not just as a job, there are a bunch of other things as well, like a lot, not just a job. Like there are a bunch of other things as well, like passive income, probably active income as well. There are a lot. Like
yeah, there are good passive incomes. The only issue with passive income is it often becomes another startup. So as you're setting it up and you still have to work hard to get it all set up. But there are good passive incomes. I'm a big fan of that too. But
awesome. So yeah. So tell me, like you've seen in leaders, you've been a leader. So how it feels like a leader to like how leaders are different, like does leaders have anything like in curiosity to do something, because they must be having something.
I like that you said the word curiosity, because that was actually going to be one of the things I said. I think like good leaders are innately very curious people, because I feel curiosity breeds excitement, and curiosity can make the negative situations positive, have not in a toxic positivity way, but having the energy to figure this out. It's like, okay, this is a challenge. Let's see if we can figure it out. This is interesting, instead of, oh, this is awful. And I think that curiosity keeps people motivated, and you can bring that to your team, and it prevents you from feeling overwhelmed and presenting a situation in an overwhelmed way. I think having an overall positive outlook, but not so positive that you're not realistic. I think it's this perfect balance, because sometimes there's a positivity where you don't face the reality of what's really going on. So I think it's a perfect blend of positivity and reality, and treating the reality as figure outable instead of overwhelming. That's a big thing too. And for me, respect. I think that's a huge thing, respecting other people. Because I've also worked for other people, sorry. When I had my first startup, I was also assisting fashion stylists at magazines. And I found the ones that really respected how myself and other assistants, how we approach things, were so much better leaders than the ones that wanted to micromanage and knew it better than all of us how we needed to do things. And that also eats up a lot of time if you're not respecting and trusting people. I don't want to use my time that way. I can use it for bigger things than worrying about, what time my employee woke up, as long as they're getting great results. So that's a huge part of good leadership to me.
Got it.
And selling your vision, getting everyone motivated, but that comes from genuine place in yourself. I think when someone's really genuinely excited about something, and I think most leaders are, you bring that excitement to other people.
Yeah. No, that's the real leadership, when you motivate, when you let them work on your vision, let them work on your mission to get done. Awesome. Cool. So tell me, tell me one last thing, like how it feels to own more than one company. Does it feel easy? Does it feel hard? I think it depends upon the company as well, how big the company is probably. So how big the operations are,
I don't find it easy or hard. I mean, that's sort of not even how, I mean, there's days where certain aspects are really challenging. There are days where certain things are easy. For me, I think it keeps an excitement. You brought up curiosity. I'm just very curiosity motivated. And I think having two different things that take my energy in two very different ways keeps me working, keeps me really, really energized. Like nothing burns out the same way. Like if I feel a little bored with one, I can focus really hard on the other. And then by the time I go back to the other, I'm completely motivated again.
Yeah.
And let's also just be realistic. diversifies risk. You know, it's just like you don't invest in one company, don't, you know, I mean, it's more diverse. So if one's really hitting hard times, the odds of both hitting hard times at the same time are a little eliminated. That's just the practical way aspect to it. And then, yeah, motivation wise, I'm so motivated because it's two things, and that just brings me more vibrancy to my days, I think, which makes everything, I think that makes me a better entrepreneur.
And I think in the second one, you can obviously stop making mistakes, which you have already made in the first one, probably. That's not the most, like all the entrepreneurs used to do. You, and we all.
Oh yeah, we all make mistakes. You make them every day. It's just, you don't let them flatten you. It's learning experience. And yeah, I learned so much from my first company. I tried a few other small ones along the way that didn't last very long, but I ended up, once I learned like why they weren't going to be feasible, I pulled out of them pretty quickly. So, and I learned so much from all of those. And that's true. It's like I'm constantly learning lessons in both of them. And today, now running both currently, and most of those lessons I can apply back and forth. I mean, every lesson just makes me a better entrepreneur. So it's kind of like I'm learning for one company on the back of the other and vice versa. So that is a good thing.
Awesome. Cool, Liz. So any best advice do you have for anyone who is getting started with the entrepreneurship? You know, any quick advice? Best.
Yes. Just, it's so exciting. It's intense. It's thrilling. I guess the main advice I have is I think we need to have a different dialogue around mistakes. Don't get insecure about mistakes. Like you're supposed to make them. I don't even like the word mistakes. It's just learning process. It's part of it. Yes. You know, you're not going to have it handed to you on a silver platter, this smooth thing that you're going to do perfectly. So just, it's all about figuring it out, and you're not going to do it smoothly or perfectly. And don't let that detract from your vision.
It's like you cannot eat a cake without baking it, and while baking it,
exactly,
you have to do a bunch of things. It is
exactly, and you're gonna do some right, wrong. It's all testing. It's all figuring out. And I think, you know, I mentioned I didn't like school, and I think school teaches us one of the worst lessons in the world, that there's like the right way to do things, and you get rewarded for not making mistakes. And I just think that is what happens when you're doing something that's not very creative and has a formula. And running a business does not have a formula and is very creative. And I almost think you should be rewarded for making mistakes. So
yeah, cool. Awesome, Liz. Well, thank you so much for getting into the show. It was good to have you in and talk about leadership, leading team, and starting and owning more than one company. So yeah, thank you so much for having in.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. I can talk about entrepreneurship all day. So
cool.